So Bernard and Bonnie, I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. Um, we've got to talk quite a bit, but I've got a feeling I have an awful lot more to learn, and we've a lot more to share. So what I'd like to ask you is maybe if you could tell me a little bit about what you enjoy about your life at the moment, and then maybe the things that you find a bit more difficult, if that would be okay.
Yes, okay, yeah, no problem. Ladies first.
Oh, what do I enjoy about my life at the moment? Well, under the current restrictions, it's difficult, but I can keep myself busy. I can keep myself active, merely to distract myself, really. My son has installed Netflix on my television, so there's plenty of choices of films, but I get a bit goggle-eyed sometimes and go off. I've never been one for walking. We live right opposite the river shore, and there's droves arriving, to trek up and trek down, but I've never been a walker. I'd rather get on with doing things and making things, repairing things. I don't go to any classes, and I miss our active retired group, simply for the laughing and sing-songs and just a bit of nonsense between all the men and women. I miss that.
That's something you've been involved in for quite some time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that group?
About active retired? Well, the association is a national one, and it's self-funded, and there's about 550 groups nationwide, and all those groups are very, very varied, depending whether you're in a small little rural village like we are, or and we've only got about 26 members, or there's some of the towns and cities have about 200 members, I hear, and waiting lists. So every group has its own structure and its character and how they want to meet and what they want to do. And ours is very sort of well, it can be raucous, but we're not too adventurous. Yeah. Well, we usually fix up. The local ETB has granted us a tutor for exercise classes, and we vary those. Bernard mentioned Qigong, and I think I know the teacher you mean. It would have been a right, but not kung fu, Tai Chi, and other sorts of exercises, so that everyone gets a style that suits them. Not everybody likes the Chinese type. Not everybody likes the physical jerks to music and everything.
Yeah. I love it, physical jerks to music.
And
so it's given people an opportunity to try
yes,
things.
Exactly.
And together, it sounds like there's a lot of fun and a lot of joy in the group.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
And how did you come to get involved in that?
Well, our particular group started 11 years ago, and my husband was with me then. He died 7 years ago, and we had retired there and decided. We had come from London, where there was a lot going on, and even though we'd just retired, we just thought, well, let's get involved in doing something, and so we responded to that, and there were about 8 or 10 couples, and some single people, and then it built on from there. Other members joined, and some have died. But it's remained round about between 26 and 25, 26 and 30 members. And to be honest, we couldn't fit any more in because we meet in the local village hall, and with all the arms swinging and parading around and dancing and everything, you'd be breaking windows.
And you made this journey, this transition, and I thought that was something that really resonated for me when you spoke about, that you retired and that you moved home. To set up home here. Your husband was originally from here.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And you made that transition, so people often make the transition from retirement to after retirement, and you also made a big move. And became involved in your local community and found a way for you to engage in that meaningful activity and together with your husband, and then your husband passed away.
Yeah.
And you came on this other transition into finding your new way of being. You're a lady of tremendous resource, Voureen.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I do feel a bit lost sometimes, and the only word I can use, but it's not quite the right word, is homesick. But I think at my age you're full of reminiscences and looking at memories anyway, and I don't know whether that's homesickness or what we'd all do when we get a bit old, look back at the old times and laugh. And a lot of my friends back from home have died as well, and so I'm kind of I'm among a lovely community, and I think I'm accepted. Being a Brit's a bit hard in some circumstances, but I won't go into that. And yeah, for instance, when I arrived, all the local children used to go past to school and toddlers in buggies, and they've all grown up, and I've watched them grow. It's been lovely. It's been lovely to be part of a friendly community that talks to me and is friendly with me and waves across the road. And
so you had mentioned, and I think that was the piece, you know, for me in talking to you, and you were talking about, I suppose, you know, you've had a lot of loss, and then you've also had a lot of joy, and that community that you've built and become a part of around, and the way that you described, you know, the children now grown up, you know, saying, you know,
yes,
hello,
yeah.
and you saying hello back, and that, you know, to be seen is still so lovely, and to maintain those connections and to feel that connection.
Yes.
That you're holding both.
Well, there's also this sense of wanting to put in as well. I don't know where it comes from. I'm sure we've all got it. Because this is going to sound like a sermon. Because you get so much and you appreciate so much, you want to do a bit back or give a bit back. And cultures are a bit different. It's a bit hard to step into something that's established and bring another style to it. So you hesitate.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sure that will resonate for a lot of people about, you know, trying to step into an established, you know, be it as an organisation, you know, or a community, and bringing you to it. You worked as a nurse, you're a professional caregiver in the UK, and you had mentioned to me before about, you know, that you know, for people that have had that experience and wanting to be able to carry on those skills, and you have so much to offer, clearly. And I think it's really important for people to be aware of that it's not easy. It's not easy to make that transition. It's not easy to be able to get to apply these skills. But when you make the effort, as you have done, it's well worth it. And you get so much back from it. Thanks, Voureen. And Bernard, yourself, we've spoken. You're an incredibly active and engaged individual in your community. Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
I retired a little bit early because of health problems. My hip and my knee were giving me trouble, and it took a while to get back to some sort of fitness and whatever. I used to do, you know, under instruction, do walking, and I have a dog, which I walk down the bank of the shore, and I felt miserable at home doing very little, you know, and just I couldn't see the rest of my life just sitting looking out the window every day. So, plus I was involved in our church, and I gradually started doing more and more maintenance there, and before I knew it, I was roped in altogether, and I have a couple of lads work with me, choice workers, you know, and they look after, and of course we started a few projects then to brighten up the place, like flower beds and things. Now, up to that, my wife used to grow all the flowers, and I'd only cut the grass. But I started learning how to. Internet's a fantastic thing. I did a computer course, and I learned how to.
This was after you retired.
After I retired, and I started learning how to grow flowers and things like that. And my speciality at the moment is roses. I grow roses every year, and I'm on what we call the select vestry in the church, which would be the official committee. But there was a number of us decided that we needed to do things to look after our elderly neighbours and things like that. This now was before COVID even came in, you know, and we do doctors' runs for them and things like that, and collect prescriptions and just generally look out for him, and we'd have coffee mornings and things like that. We'd chat about various things and whatever. And every year then we would do one or two events. We'd do something to give back to the community. We do what we would call charity events, and we'd give the money then to local charities.
Tell us a bit more about these.
Well, we have a church out near Newcastle called Tullameelan, and the lady who and myself that were out there, she came up with the idea of doing a carols by candlelight at Christmas. And the donations we got from that then, a lot of the locals, neighbours and everything else turned up for it, and she got singers and she got fantastic response to it. And we gave the money that year to the ringing the community, the ring up, the checking on the local neighbours. We gave that, and she also used to rear pups for the autism, so we gave the money to that another year. And one lady had her husband died of a heart attack, so we put up a remembrance tree. And the donations from that then all went to, that sort of thing.
So it's a real sense of how much can be achieved when people work together.
And a lot of the people now would be elderly like ourselves, and we get together and we were trying to raise money then as well to do up the hall. The hall was neglected because of the repairs that had to be done to the church, and we've so far got the roof back on it.
Fantastic.
But COVID put a stop to kind of. But now we were there yesterday. We met yesterday for a coffee, and we were trying to figure out what we're going to do this year. With the restrictions that are there, like we don't know what we can do. But some people were talking about. One lady was talking about we should have a competition of baking pies. And make the rest of the parishioners buy them. Besides having to taste them,
you'll be on the internet again.
And and somebody then will come up with an idea as to who we'll give it to.
Yes.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
And
there's two parts there, isn't it? Like I said, it's that the potential of what can be done when people work together, and what can be achieved. But there's also something else going on there, which is people coming together, meeting, similar to your group, Voureen, and people, on a sharing that interest with each other and working together on something. And something quite special in that part.
We're not members of Men's Shed, but we use the hall we've made bird boxes for some of our people, and some of our elderly can't do the gardens anymore, so we made window boxes and things like that just to help them out, that type of thing.
And the one thing I'm struck by, Bernard, is whenever I'm talking to you and you say, and we just do this, and we just do this. And before you retired, you worked as an engineer.
Yeah, I worked for engineering companies, around the country, at various ones, from time to years.
On the stage between the two of you alone, the skill set that you bring to whatever you get involved in is just.
Well, that's what we noticed with the people that are in. We're loosely based, and we have the blessing of our rector. She allows us to do these things, and they've all come from all walks of life, and they all have something to offer, and they, besides being in their own groups, the ladies groups, ICA and all other things, this was just more friendly. I wouldn't say more friendly, more.
There's something more. It's like it's more informal, or there's There is something, and I think it probably leads on quite nicely to one of the other areas that we've been talking about, which what can be the barriers for people to actually engage in some of these groups, or to engage in some activities, or to maybe try new things. Because as we were talking about, you had explained about you were looking for something to do, and that you went over to
Thurles,
an event that was held in Thurles. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the active aging held these open days, and there was 20, maybe 30 stalls there of everything, and that's why I went over to get information and for leaflets and so forth, because the information is out there, but we don't seem to get it. Enough groups don't seem to get it.
There's a block there somewhere,
yes,
isn't there?
The one example which is very relevant is the fire brigade. Now the fire brigade were giving out free smoke alarms, and they would come and fit them in your house. Now a lot of people didn't know that, and I got some forms of them over there, and I gave them to some of our people, and they put in smoke alarms in their houses. Another layer of security for them, things like that. And what other? You were there as well, Voureen.
Mine's gone blank. I can't remember.
But there was adult education, which was another one. It was about the computer courses and all various information. Dementia was in the group were there as well, which they had very, very good information about what to look for if it's in the family or how to cope with it. And then they would give you people who would to contact, that sort of thing.
And when you were talking about that event, I remember attending an event in Racket Hall that was arranged, it could be 4 or 5 years ago. I used to work in North Tipperary. And that was the feedback that people get from that event there as well, about there's so much there that, there was stalls there from organisations and opportunities I wasn't aware of. And it's a wonderful opportunity to have events like that, and that everybody is welcome.
Yeah.
And you see the footfall coming through the door, and you see the surprise on people's faces, and you see opportunities for people. So I think that's really key to the likes of those events, because there's so many people doing so many things, but not necessarily connecting about them or having the opportunity to connect about them. So it does, allow for people to make the most of opportunities that are there then, doesn't it?
Well, this is what the active ageing was set up to do, was to try and bring all these groups and all these organisations under one kind of umbrella, and that the information could be shared out amongst people, because there's so many different groups there that are just working individually. Yes. And they don't know how to access the funding, which is very important.
Another important part, absolutely, because that's the sustainability of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So really important. And you had mentioned as well about a wellness program that you found out about. They were there as well. Yes,
yes.
Wellness program that you were talking about.
I did a wellness program as well. I'm prepared to try various things. Yeah, we found it very, very useful.
And I think that's really important, because it's that piece around taking the chance. It's like a leap of faith, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do those things. So, Bernard, I wonder, could we talk a little bit about what you think are the barriers for people to actually, engage in some of these activities, or, maybe even the barriers to finding out what's on offer?
Well, with a lot of the friends that I have that I spoke to and tried to encourage them to join various things, and they don't want to commit because they were committing all their lives. That's one of it. Another one would be they're afraid. They're afraid that they might look foolish, and people might look at them in a strange way. Like when I first told people I was doing qigong, some of them even laughed at me, and they couldn't even understand what I was doing in the first place.
What was that like for that to happen?
Well,
for you?
You kind of get used to that sort of thing, But and some of my friends and people I know that I did ask, they say, "Oh, that's not for me." And I said, "How will you know unless you try it?"
Okay.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't have the time. But what are you doing all day? Oh, I have to go down and get the paper, and I have to, this sort of thing. And just looking for excuses not to take the first step.
Yeah.
And that is the major barrier, I think. Taking the first step, and going out there, and like in the library, there's quite a lot of information about these various groups.
It's true, actually.
You know, and it's only just pick up the phone and ring.
Yeah.
And see, would you be interested in a particular stuff? And if it doesn't work for you, well, good, try something else.
Yeah.
You know, there's no sense of failure.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe I think that's one of the barriers, a sense of
it's
failure.
really important, yeah. Yeah, really important.
I remember the first time we all got together as a group of men, and we were sitting there and we were asked to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
And explain what we did for a living or in a previous life. And some men found it very hard to even open up on the basic of that.
So to speak in a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
after a couple of months when the barriers came down, they talked ahead of you. You know.
Yeah.
So
just give it time.
Yeah, give
There's
it
a real
time.
message there about
yeah.
take a chance and give it time.
And another barrier is in some of these organisations, it's so structured that you have a group that would run it, as it were, you know, and everybody else are just the you know, the numbers, as it were.
Yeah, so there's something there, and I think, you know, from both of you talking about the groups that ye have found home in, and that are really enjoying, there's an equality there.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't seem to be hierarchical. It seems to be that we all bring what we bring, and we're all equal.
Exactly. Yes.
There's something quite special in that. Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, like in our group now, we have numerous people of different qualifications, and we have, you know, I've just not been derogatory or anything, but we have a housewife or two housewives, and they bring every bit as much to our group as somebody who had qualifications and had a professional job.
Yeah.
You know,
It's person first.
yes,
Person
yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, Bernard's putting it perfectly.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful.
You know, you need to be treated equally.
Yeah.
But other barriers could be actually getting to the place.
This is true.
Until recently, we had, before COVID, we had a lady who had had several strokes, was in and out of hospital, but she liked to come, and one of her children, daughter, son, used to wheel her in, and I don't mean wheel her in, I mean bring her in the car and in the wheelchair. And
she required extra support to be
she
able
did,
to go.
yes.
Yeah.
And she enjoyed listening to all the nonsense. If it was a day that we were playing bingo, if it was a day that we had musicians in, she'd be thumping the table, thoroughly enjoying it. And but she wouldn't have been able to come on her own if she didn't have family or someone to bring her.
Transport is such a big issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So there's I suppose, the factors within the person. So, you know, the fear of being judged or what others might say, or jumping to conclusions, you know, that, oh, that's not for me, or, you know, I suppose, again, then we've got, you know, things outside of the person, you know, those practical barriers, you know, the transport, the time of the day. You know, I suppose that there's an awful lot of people who are informal carers at home. They can't come out, you know, to groups as well. So there are a lot of different barriers, aren't there? And then I can hear ways that people are overcoming those barriers, and often drawing on the internal resources. And I suppose a piece about today was resilience, you know. But, you know, drawing on those internal resources and what we've learned throughout our lives to be able to find a way. And the same, you know, with the lady that came with the support of her daughter, you know, it's kind of trying to find what's there to allow you to take that next step.
It's also to be recognised that some people like being a hermit. I know there's times when I don't want to see anyone from one week to the next, and that's all right too. It's not that you're a miserable old.
Or there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And I think that is so important, and I think that is the importance of, you know, yes, providing opportunities, and yes, maybe, you know, for people to think about, do I need to push myself out of my comfort zone? But also, you know, as you so eloquently put, you know, there is that time that, you know, there are things that aren't for me. You know, you said earlier, you know, that actually, no, that's just not for me, and that's okay too, you know, because you've thought about it and you've considered it. And there are times that, yeah, you know, that's, you know, it's a personal choice, isn't it, and personal preference. Yeah, absolutely. So Bernard, we were just speaking there, you know, I suppose about some of the barriers, and you know that transport is a big barrier, and we can, you know, use that term and say, you know, transport is the barrier, access is the barrier, but you know it's really important, I suppose, the way you captured it. That do you want to say a little bit about that? That it was only when you were helping somebody who was in a wheelchair and you actually pushed the wheelchair.
Yeah, we were out walking one day around part of the town, and I was talking to the gentleman in the wheelchair, and we come to a bit of a hill, and I said I'll push you, you know. I kept talking away, and then it was only then that I started realising what I ever took every day for granted. Yes. You know. Now I know in council buildings and hospitals and that they have ramps and everything else, but there is an awful lot of challenges for people. Irresponsible people parking their cars on the footpaths and things like that. Had to go out onto the road to get around them, and cars coming and everything else. And it made me realise, and feel quite furious at the time, that you know, that it's hard enough for the person to be in a wheelchair, but to have to put up with these additional barriers and.
I think it's really important what you're saying, that what the lived experience is like, you know, for the individual, that, you know, to really get a sense of that. And everybody will have their own, you know. And again, as we're talking about, I suppose, with physical aspects of ageing, you know, different needs, whether it's, you know, people needing to go to the toilet or different things. And we don't talk about these things. It's almost like, you know, we kind of sweep them under the rug and we don't talk about them, but they can be very real and live barriers for people to actually, you know, maybe it's, you know, travel a distance or walk a distance, or not knowing about what facilities might be, you know, in a place when they get there. So I think that that's really important, you know, for as well people that are organising, you know, events or clubs or involved in clubs, to kind of be aware of, to be able to flag, you know, oh, just so you know, there's this on the way or that on the way. You know, you see lovely, I suppose, you know, natural, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but just, I suppose, lovely informed ways or adjustments that people have made to different settings. I know down in Tintern Abbey, every few 100 yards there's a bench, you know, beautifully set against some, you know, some point, so that, you know, people can have a rest that might need it along the way. And this isn't an age thing either, you know, as we were talking about. This isn't, you know, we were saying about, you know, the words active retirement, you know, and different things. You know, some people might switch off a little bit, but we need to think about, you know, our age is where we're at. Our needs are as they are, regardless of age. And they'll vary. We're all so different, and we all have such varying needs and preferences. That actually, you know, it would do us all a lesson just to, you know, to listen a little bit more and to see what we can glean for our own, I suppose, well-being, really. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Think about what you want for yourself.
Think about what you want for yourself.
How you can manage it if you want it.
Yeah.
And get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you a little bit, you know, we've talked about I suppose a wide range of experiences and your own journeys today. And bearing in mind, I suppose, that we were asked to come here today to think about, you know, resilience, and what would be the advice that you might give somebody that might be watching this?
About positive aging. Well, just don't worry about things so much. Just go with. You have a personal responsibility to try to stay fit. And I think that's instinctive. No one wants to conk out any before they. And and to listen to health advice. And I'm looking around at my house now thinking, I'll have to put up a handrail on those steps in the garden, and I'll have to get rid of that rug. That's the third time I've tripped over it, and I'll brain myself in the bathroom if I don't, change to a different... Things like that, taking safety measures. And I've grown a little bit more anxious and cautious because of the changes in the world we're in now. Like, I know that Tipperary is particularly trying hard to get us all digital and able to use internet and smartphones, and it's going to be the way things are by the look of it. With banks and the post office or wherever we go, everything's not going to be dealing with people even anymore. That kind of worries me a little bit, but I'm doing my best to get to grips with it. I'm pretty all right with my iPad, the best thing I ever had. My son gave it to me 10 years ago and it changed my life, and I've been able to navigate my way around it. But everything else that's out there is beginning to unnerve me a little bit when I know, do I need to know this? Yeah, I think I do. I better get on with it. Who do I ask? And maybe the teacher will be impatient, or and sometimes I can work it out for myself, and that's all right. That's quite, I won't say empowering, because I haven't had to use it. I just want to know. Even using a smartphone is baffling. And I'd love to go back to just my little old Nokia one.
The ring in, ring out.
And just send a text if I want. But
I don't think you'd be alone in that.
No, I do recognise the benefits of things. I recognise the trends in things, and what we're going to have to. But it's made me a bit more anxious. For instance, I'm getting scam emails. Somebody just last week sent one saying, you've had a rebate on your tax. If you send us your credit, well, the gist of it, if you send us your credit card number, we'll send you 200 and whatever it was. And it just didn't ring true, but it nearly did.
It presents new ways, doesn't it?
Yes, and as well as the fear that you might be scammed, be a victim of scamming, it also, it's very disturbing inside, thinking that there's people out there, there's wicked people out there. When you're living in a world, it's not like fairyland, is it? But you can negotiate and deal with people, and just the interpersonal behaviour. You can judge for yourself and make yourself feel a bit more confident about how you're getting through the days. But this internet business is worrying me. Okay. Internet business. Okay. See how I'm in that age group, aren't I?
It is internet business. There's a lot happening there, and there's a lot of change, and you're right. And I think you're giving voice to the concerns of a lot of people.
Yeah. Would you be the same? Yeah.
Part of what you said, I relate to. Not at all. I have a wicked difficulty with all the remotes for the television. I have 3 different ones to actually work my television, and I get very frustrated with that. And I don't like going into supermarkets and going up to my machine and putting my stuff through it. I like the face-to-face contact, the human contact. But this is all disappeared. And as you said, the banks. I went into a bank before COVID there, and there was no tellers. And there was a woman standing there, and she said, there's the machine there. And sure, I might as well have been looking at Mars, because I had no idea. Of course, she came over to help me, but did I want to know? Personally, no.
Yes.
I didn't, certain things I will accept, but this dehumanising everybody, just making us into robots, basically.
So it's a loss. Isn't it?
It is. It's a big loss.
I suppose, going to the bank, going to the supermarket, there would have been all opportunities for social engagement, for social contact. And now it's like an extra layer of skill is required to be able to do those things.
Yes.
And without the social interaction
No.
that used to go with
Going
it.
going into a shop in the morning, say good morning, and getting a smile and just say good morning, or even out for a walk and the headphones are in, or those big things on their ears or whatever they are, and their head down, and they just walk past you as if you don't exist. I mean,
Yes.
it's an awful loss to that people have gone that way. That to me, that I find that.
So that's a big loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that's so noticeable.
Yeah.
And especially when, you know, we are social beings.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
we
it's
look for that.
fundamental in us, isn't it, to exchange even just a word or a look,
To connect.
to feel safe.
Since
Who do you need to
since
avoid,
COVID
you know?
came, I have noticed a U-turn on that quite a lot.
Right.
Quite an awful lot of people now would say good morning to you, you know, and hello when you be passing them out for a walk,
Yeah.
things like that. Yes, I've noticed quite a.
So there's a bit of a change.
There was a
in
bit of
that
a
you've
change. Like
noticed.
I suppose we were going back somewhat towards, you know, the basics.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't understand how a person has to have the phone in their hand all day and live by the phone and you know and.
It's another way of being, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't look at the
It's
grandchildren
hard
and
to
enjoy
accept.
your crackers.
At our age, it's hard to accept.
Yeah.
You know, and the younger people, yes, it's the way they were brought up, it's their life, but
So it's a change
a
that
change,
you've noticed.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a change you've noticed.
Find it